Imagine this. It's a Thursday, a perfectly ordinary, forgettable Thursday in late July. You are sitting in a coffee shop, maybe somewhere in a bustling city like London or a quiet town in Ohio. The air is thick with the smell of roasted beans and the gentle hum of conversation. You're stirring your latte, just watching the little vortex of foam swirl around your spoon. Maybe you're thinking about your plans for the weekend, a looming deadline at work, or what to make for dinner. It is, in every conceivable way, just another moment in a life filled with countless similar moments. A moment so mundane you would never think to commit it to memory, yet it is about to become the most significant moment of all. Then it happens. Or rather, it unhappens. In the time it takes to blink, you are simply not there anymore. There's no flash of light, no puff of smoke, no dramatic sound effect like you might see in a film. Your chair is empty. The latte on the table is still warm, the steam gently rising from the cup. The spoon you were holding clatters softly onto the saucer, the only sound to mark your departure from the known universe. The first person to notice something is amiss is probably the friend you were meeting. Let's call her Sarah. She arrives a minute or two late, scanning the crowded room for your familiar face. She spots the table you said you'd grab, the one by the window. She sees your half-finished coffee, the abandoned spoon, the empty chair. Her first thought isn't alarm, but mild annoyance. Maybe you've gone to the restroom or stepped outside to take a phone call. She sits down, pulls out her own phone and sends a quick text. "Here, where'd you go?" She waits, scrolling through social media, expecting you to reappear at any moment with a perfectly reasonable explanation for your brief absence. After 5 minutes, that mild annoyance begins to curdle into genuine confusion. Sarah calls your phone. It goes straight to voicemail, which is odd. You are famously attached to that device, its battery always meticulously charged. She glances around the coffee shop again, more intently this time. She even peeks into the small, single-stall restrooms, knocking on the doors and calling your name. The baristas, when asked, just shake their heads with apologetic shrugs. She calls your number again, and then again, each unanswered ring amplifying her anxiety. The confusion solidifies into a cold, hard knot of fear. After another 10 minutes of frantic waiting and unanswered calls, she makes a decision. She calls your partner, then your parents, her words tumbling out in a rush of anxiety and disbelief. "I can't find them," she says. "They were just here. And now they're gone." Within hours, the situation escalates from a personal worry to an official matter. Your family, propelled by a growing sense of panic, files a missing person report with the local police. The initial response from the authorities is procedural and, to your frantic loved ones, frustratingly calm. They take down your description, your last known whereabouts, the details of your life. The first 24 hours pass, then 48, with absolute radio silence. Your bank accounts remain untouched. Your credit cards show no activity. Your phone's last known GPS location is precisely where Sarah said it was, that coffee shop. The police investigation begins to intensify. Detectives revisit the scene, interviewing every employee and as many patrons as they can track down. The story is consistently, maddeningly the same. Nobody saw anything. You were there and then you were not. As the days turn into a week, your disappearance transforms from a local police matter into a media event. First, it's a brief mention on the local evening news, your smiling photograph displayed on screen with a plea for information. Then the story gets picked up by national news outlets, drawn in by the bizarre circumstances. The vanishing at the coffee shop, one headline dubs it. Social media explodes with hashtags like #FindYou and #TheCoffeeShopGhost trending worldwide. Online sleuths and armchair detectives dissect every known detail of your life. Conspiracy theories bloom like algae in a stagnant pond. Was it a government abduction? A secret witness protection relocation? Did you orchestrate your own disappearance to start a new life? Your family, caught in the eye of this media hurricane, must navigate not only their profound grief and terror, but also the relentless glare of public speculation. Your absence has created a vacuum, and the entire world is rushing to fill it with noise. The official search effort quickly becomes one of the largest in recent memory. It begins conventionally enough, with police and trained search and rescue teams combing the area around the coffee shop. They search parks, alleyways, abandoned buildings, and waterways, looking for any clue, any scrap of fabric, any discarded item that might point to where you went. K9 units are brought in, but the dogs find themselves in a state of confusion. They can trace your scent to the chair you sat in, but then the trail just stops. It doesn't lead to the door or the restroom or a waiting car. It simply ends abruptly in the middle of the room, as if you were lifted straight up into the sky. This lack of a physical trail pushes the investigation into uncharted territory. With no body and no traditional evidence, the search expands outward in concentric circles of data. Investigators obtain warrants for your digital life. They analyze your emails, your social media messages, your search history, your financial records, looking for any hint of a plan or a hidden distress. But all they find is a picture of a perfectly normal life, making your sudden erasure from it all the more inexplicable. The public's fascination with the case fuels a massive civilian search effort. Volunteers, organized through social media groups, descend on the city. They print and distribute thousands of flyers bearing your face. They organize their own grid searches, driven by a collective desire to solve the puzzle and bring you home. This outpouring of community support is a source of immense comfort to your family, a visible sign that they are not alone in their desperate hope. Weeks bleed into months, and the search evolves once more. The physical search teams are eventually scaled back, the hope of finding you in a nearby park having long since faded. Your face remains on posters, now faded and peeling in the rain, a constant silent reminder of the question no one can answer. The great search did not fail for lack of effort, but for lack of a world in which people can simply cease to be. With the investigation at a dead end, the world turns to its experts, demanding an explanation for the unexplainable. Scientists are brought onto news programs, blinking in the bright studio lights, and asked to weigh in. Physicists, with a great deal of hemming and hawing, talk about theoretical possibilities. They might mention quantum tunneling, the bizarre phenomenon where a particle can pass through a solid barrier. Could a macroscopic object like a human being do the same? The odds are so infinitesimally small as to be functionally zero, they explain. But zero is not a word science likes to use with absolute certainty. They are careful, precise, and ultimately unsatisfying. Other experts propose theories grounded more in psychology and criminology. Perhaps it was the perfect crime, an abduction so flawlessly executed that it left no trace. This theory appeals to our sense of order. It implies human agency, however malevolent, rather than a random, chaotic universe. Specialists in covert operations might be consulted. Could a foreign power have developed a technology for teleportation or cloaking? It sounds like science fiction. But in a world desperate for answers, even far-fetched technological explanations seem more comforting than the idea that reality itself has a delete button. Inevitably, the explanations drift from the scientific to the fantastical. People begin to whisper about folklore and ancient myths. Was it a fey abduction, a person spirited away to another realm, like in the old Celtic tales? The coffee shop becomes a tourist attraction, a pilgrimage site for paranormal investigators with their EMF meters and ghost boxes, hoping to catch a residual echo of your impossible departure. Your disappearance becomes a modern myth, a campfire story for the digital age. You are no longer just a missing person. You are a symbol of the porous boundary between our world and something else. The lack of an answer allows everyone to invent their own. For the world at large, your disappearance eventually becomes a piece of trivia, a fascinating but distant puzzle. For your family and friends, however, it is a wound that never heals. Their lives are now permanently divided into two distinct eras, before and after. The before is a sunlit land of memories, now tinged with a painful forensic quality. Every photograph, every shared laugh, every casual conversation is re-examined, searched for clues or portents they might have missed. The practical consequences of your vanishing are a bureaucratic nightmare. How do you declare someone dead when there is no body, no evidence of death, not even a plausible theory of what happened? Your assets are frozen, your property held in limbo. Your loved ones must navigate a legal system that is simply not equipped for this kind of event. It is a slow, grinding process that adds a layer of administrative misery on top of their profound emotional grief. The emotional toll is immeasurable. Your loved ones are trapped in a state of ambiguous loss, unable to mourn you in the conventional sense because a sliver of hope always remains. What if you come back? What if you reappear just as suddenly as you vanished? This hope is a cruel companion, preventing them from ever truly finding closure. Every knock on the door, every unexpected phone call carries a fleeting, heart-stopping possibility. Over time, your absence becomes a presence in itself. It is the empty chair at the dinner table, the silence in a once lively home, the name that is spoken in hushed tones or avoided altogether. Your friends and family learn to live around this void, but it shapes the contours of their new reality. Your story serves as a constant, painful reminder to them that the world is not as solid or as predictable as we pretend it is, and that anyone, at any time, can simply be gone. Years will pass. The media frenzy will die down, the online forums will grow quiet, and the world will move on to the next great mystery. Your case will be relegated to the annals of the unexplained, a footnote in true crime anthologies and a favorite topic for late-night documentary specials. For most, you will become a "do you remember" story, a fascinating anecdote about that time a person just vanished. The coffee shop might even have a small, discreet plaque marking the spot, a quirky nod to its moment of global fame. But the question of what happened to you will linger. Such an event would fundamentally challenge our most basic assumptions about reality. We build our lives on a foundation of predictable physical laws and the continuity of existence. Your disappearance would prove that this foundation is not as solid as we think. It would inject a dose of cosmic uncertainty into everyday life. If a person can simply cease to be, what else is possible? What other fundamental rules can be broken without warning? This encounter with the profound unknown could, strangely, have a positive effect on how we view our own lives. It would force us to confront the fragility and preciousness of our existence. Knowing that any moment could inexplicably be our last might encourage us to live more fully, to cherish our connections with others more deeply. The mystery of your fate becomes a philosophical touchstone, prompting introspection about what it means to exist, and the value we place on the time we are given. The world would be a little less certain, but perhaps a little more appreciative. In the end, your vanishing would leave us with a gift of sorts, the gift of wonder. In a world increasingly explained, mapped, and demystified, a true impenetrable mystery is a rare and powerful thing. It reminds us that we are small beings in a vast and often baffling universe. It encourages us to look up at the stars not just as balls of gas, but as points of infinite possibility. Your story would become a testament to the idea that not everything can be known, and that perhaps it is in the spaces between the answers that we find the deepest questions about who we are and what this strange, beautiful, and sometimes terrifying experience of life is all about.